Illy, who's going to inform us about watermelon growing.
Hello, everybody. My name's Illy, and I'll be discussing planting watermelon, including staking and support. Next slide, please. Just a quick background regarding the watermelon. It is citrus lentus, a part of the Cucurbitaceae family. The fruit has a smooth exterior, and the rind is it has a juicy sweet interior flesh when ripe. And watermelons, especially the smaller ones, are excellent candidates to train to vertical support structures through staking and trellising. Next slide, please. Now, with watermelons, they can be transplanted or direct seeded. We would want to go ahead and direct sow the seeds in a sunny, well-drained area when all danger of frost is past and the soil is warm. And if you want to have some earlier fruit, I would recommend that we start seeds indoors at least 3 weeks prior to transplanting. Melons grown from transplants can be harvested as much as 4 weeks earlier than watermelons grown directly from seed. Some key points regarding this: that watermelon and honeydew are more cold sensitive than cantaloupe. So we would want to just have that in the back of your mind, especially around our region, where we can get those sudden cold snaps still in April and even through the early part of May. Just have that as a thought process that you may need to go, if you planted your watermelon, direct seeded them already, just make sure you go ahead and put like a frost cover or some sort of couch, so that way you just protect them from that warmth. Next slide. As indicated, we want to plant melons in a hot, sunny location with fertile, well-drained soils where they'll get full sun, preferably 8 to 10 hours a day. We'll want to go ahead and use compost and fertilizer. You'll want to plant these seeds 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep. For these, you want to sow them 2 or 3 seeds in groups, 18 to 24 inches apart, in spaced rows 5 to 6 feet apart. And after the seedlings emerge, you'll want to choose the strongest plant in each group and then remove the others. Next slide, please. Earlier, I mentioned that watermelons, especially the smaller varieties, are great candidates for vertical gardening. Vertical gardening is a practice of gardening in which we'll get a variety of structures that are used to elevate the plant growth and just take advantage of that vertical space. These are great for, like, if you're in a small area, small limited space, or just to ensure you get more airflow for the fruit itself. And it's a great way to be able to use the space most efficiently, and just by growing up. Next slide, please. In regards to trellises and stakes not only provide more higher yield, but they also support the plants that are normally overloaded with produce. And these also allows minimizing the pest problems by keeping plant foliage off the ground and increasing airflow. I know myself, I've grown watermelons and squashes on trellises. I've actually used a cow panel, made an arch and used 2 T stakes to go ahead and get that support, and then just trained my watermelons like a sugar baby, just trained them up to just go ahead and go all over around the trellis of the cow panel. And it allowed just for the fruit to be able to get more access to pollinators, as well as just less chance of powdery mildew, because the plant itself is not just laying on the ground. They just get all that airflow. Next slide, please. So, as indicated before, you want to build sturdy trellises, just because watermelon by itself, they can get anywhere from 5 to 25 pounds done. So with trellising itself, I would recommend just a smaller watermelon variety cultivators. So we want to get something that's sturdy enough. As I mentioned before, personally, I've used cow panels. I've also used the goat and fen panels, just the strong, sturdy ones, and use T-posts to be able to really secure them down and be able to bear that weight. I've had almost 20 to 25 pounds of watermelon, just the small ones were like little 5 pound each. They'll had to go ahead and support, and it can weigh them down. So as long as you have that support, think about just building those sturdy trellises, and it will definitely work out with that. Next slide, please. Now, there's different types of materials that you can go ahead and use with trellises. I've seen them used wood. I've seen them used. I've seen gardeners use PVC pipe. Well, they'll go ahead and make trellises with PVC pipe and just securing it very strongly, either with T-posts or just driving the actual pipes themselves really deep into the ground. I've seen upcycles of gates, fence gates, that they'll go ahead and secure into the ground, and then use garden ties to be able to secure the watermelon to the trellis itself. Essentially, trellises just consist of 2 vertical supports with mesh suspended between them to provide support for the climbing plants. But even chicken wire or galvanized fencing can definitely work as a type of trellis to be able to have that support for the watermelons. And what can be used to attach these trellises to the mesh, to the supports, can either be nail staples or plastic locking ties. I've used zip ties to ensure that that gets tied in securely, and it's worked very well for me. Next slide, please. In regards with staking, when we think of staking, we think about it in regards to what we will typically do for staking for tomatoes. Same semblance of, we'll get 2 stakes, go ahead and use twine or wire, whatever it is we need to make sure that we get that mesh to go from one end to the next. I've even, in my earlier attempts with staking watermelon, I've used the green vegetable netting. But like I said, with those, you'd want to do mainly the smaller watermelons. Anything heavier than that, I would highly recommend fencing, or like I said, a cow panel or a goat panel. They'll get that strength, and use a T-post to really secure them. With stakes themselves, you want to go ahead and pound on the metal or wooden stakes to the ground, just to make sure that they're deep enough so they don't tip over due to a strong wind. I've actually had that happen before, where a really particularly strong wind actually just flopped over my staking for my watermelon. So again, that's why I replaced it with the cow panel and the T-post, just to make sure that they're really secure in there. So for like a 6-foot stake pound to the ground, you want to leave at least 5 feet of trellis area on there. Next page, please. Now again, the strength of the stake depends on the species grown and the vigor of the vine, and the type of stakes and how deeply you set them into the ground. Typically try 5 or 6 feet between stakes, depending on how big of a space that you have. For a wider trellis, use 3 stakes, and then just divide the width into 2 parts with a stake in the middle. Next slide. Now, training your vine. This is important. So watermelons themselves will have these natural little tendrils. They'll go ahead and cling to whatever they can. Unfortunately, with vertical training, those tendrils themselves will not fully support the vine and the fruit as they grow. So what you would want to do is, as your vine grows, and it will grow fast, you'll get several inches on a day of vine. You'll depending if you're using a trellis or if you're staking. With a trellis, you would want to go ahead and just train it. I tend to weave it in between a cow panel, for example, and then I'll use either garden ties, I'll use twine, just to get an additional just to secure them right onto the panel itself, with the trellis itself. And that would allow it to generally just go ahead and grow. Personally, that's one of the reasons why I like the cow panel. You're able to utilize it. And if I do it in an arch, it looks so pretty when I grow watermelons along on the side of the cow panel, and then I start training them to trail upward. And it just makes this beautiful arch, and you just see the fruit just start to grow. That would be my recommendation with that. But this can also be done on a smaller scale with staking or smaller trellis, where again, you'd want to train your vine to just interweave them the same way as you would with tomatoes, interweave them and then tying them to get just that support as they go in. You'll get some of these suckers that come off to the side, just train them to just come right back. And as they go, just as I said, just be gentle and just ensure that they're secured to train them to go out. Next slide. Now, as the fruit grow, you're going to need some way to be able to support this fruit. Why I love vertical gardening with watermelons, like I said, is you're able to train them up, you get more airflow, you get more space, you get more area for those flowers to get pollinated. But as the fruit does grow, you're going to need something to be able to support that fruit. Some nylon or mesh bags that you just kind of cradle the fruit, or even like a used t-shirt, just get the strips and make a little hammock or a string or a sling just tied to your trellis or cowpile just to get that support. And that would be able to support that growing fruit as it grows. We want to make sure that it's something that's certainly breathable. We don't want any sort of like unbreathable fabric to support that fruit. You still want it to have that airflow in there. So hammocks on a sling, nylon bags, use pantyhose, I even use that just to help support tying that in and just support that additional weight. As they grow, you may need to chain them. It depends. Just keep an eye on that. Watermelons will not ripen at the same time, so you just want to keep an eye on them, plant to pick as they become ripe, and just watch them grow.